lose yourself in a good book. The Board Gosh Energy Book Club.
Now, from dark crime novels to children's fantasy, author John Connolly has become one of Ireland's most successful fiction writers since his first bestseller was published in 1999. He joins us now to tell us about his latest offering, Night Music, Nocturnes, Volume 2. Good morning, sir. Very welcome, as always, as we said.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Do you know why I like coming in here?
Why?
It's because it makes me grateful that I don't have a proper job. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I think, it's dark out. Yeah. You know, it's anybody, any job you can do in your pyjamas or actually naked is not really a proper job. Well, there are some jobs you can do properly naked, but not what I do.
Okay. Yeah. How about a onesie?
This is people having, there are people having their toast and I think it's that bloke on again talking about doing things naked, you know.
Now, those of us who are fans of yours, and a lot of others besides, will remember Nocturnes 1, which is 10 years ago now, which I thought, wow, because it doesn't seem like that. Nocturnes 2, why?
I love short stories. I love supernatural short stories. Yeah. You know, the difficulty is if you write a novel has to have an ending. You know, what I love about short stories is they just give you a glimpse of something. And I think that's really effective for supernatural fiction because the worst thing you can do is explain. If you explain the monster has no more impact.
The whole point
anymore.
about supernatural is it has to hang.
It should be. There should be a question mark. But the problem is if you write, there's a little essay at the end of the book about supernatural fiction and supernatural film. And I make the case, it's Under the Dome, the Stephen King, which is on TV at the moment. That's an 1,100-page novel. You know you're carrying that around with you. And poor old King, because he's written an 1,100-page novel, has to give an ending for this. But the ending is never going to be as interesting as the concept of the book, which was, suddenly a town wakes up and it's sealed off. And the book almost collapses because he has to try and find an ending that just, it would almost be better if it hadn't been explained at all. So even Homer nods, you know.
Well, it's like the definition of character. It's a journey, not a destination, isn't it?
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Now, the other thing, of course, is that the short story form is particularly... it's a particularly rich area for Irish writers. And I mean, you can name all the great ones from Frank O'Connor to William Trevor. But also recently, a lot of the modern writers have gone back to it again. You've gone back to it. Colin McCann was in recently with it.
Yeah, that's great.
Kevin Barry, of course, is winning prizes all over the world with his stuff. So there's a very rich tradition. Is when you're doing that and you're very accomplished in your area, do you kind of think, oh God, this is a very high quality, high caliber field?
Well, we're going through one of those phases at the moment, I think, where we're producing an awful lot of good short fiction. These things go up and down, and we'll have a couple of years where I don't think we'll see that much of it. What's lovely about it is that it's like taking hits of espresso when you're writing. You know, if you're writing a novel, my novels take 2 years from kind of conception to the time they hit a shelf. I wrote one of these short stories stuck on a plane to Mexico between these two huge fat blokes as I tried to tap away like this. And, when I reached the end of the flight, I had a story, and it's almost addictive for writers. I found it quite difficult to go back to long-form fiction after.
Do you? I mean, like a lot of writers have ideas all the time, and they're momentary, they're fleeting. There's a little flash of inspiration. They go, oh, that's a vignette. Oh, God, 2 years to make this into a novel, and I'm not even sure whether it has the legs for that. Yeah. But it has my interest for 10 minutes.
Yep, which might that's a short story then, and that's perfect for a short story.
Now, there's novellas in this as well, though, isn't there?
There is. There are 2 novellas. One of them is quite long. It's a series of interlinked short stories. So, yeah, I haven't gone entirely away from it. And you're trying to vary it. You want people... some of the stories aren't supernatural at all. Some of them are just kind of fantasies. It was funny. I was doing a signing in the States last week, and a woman came up to me and she said, I love reading these stories, but I don't want to read them before I go to bed because obviously I have trouble sleeping. And I had to go through them and put little varying smiley faces beside each story. So really smiley was something she could read before she went to bed. A bit frowny, possibly not something she wanted to read.
It's like the number of chilies on a Thai menu.
There was a little bit like that. I felt I'd missed a trick when I was putting it together, yeah.
You wanted to mention, actually, you're involved with something else with Owen Colfer as well,
I did want to mention this very much.
Isn't this great? Like an author who comes on and plugs somebody else's book.
Well, I think this is beautiful. This is Once Upon a Place, which has just been published, and it's Owen Colfer's Laureate in the No project. The best thing you can do for a kid if you're a parent is to teach your kid to appreciate books and reading, because your kid will never be bored. And also, as we've discovered, people who read fiction become much more empathetic, they're better at understanding people, and your kid is going to spend the rest of his or her life trying to understand and deal with people. But sometimes I think what parents feel is, God, I put this wodge of text. I mean, night music, it's blocks of text. And if a kid who's not keen on reading may be put off. This is beautifully illustrated by P.J. Lynch. It's absolutely extraordinary. And it's not just aimed at very young children, because adults appreciate a lovely, beautifully illustrated book too. So it's the kind of book you can give a kid. And I remember when I was growing up, we were kind of more or less similar vintages. where you get an annual in your stocking. The idea was that at Christmas you always got something to read. This is a complete. It's short stories, it's poetry, and it's the kind of thing. If you wanted to just leave it beside your kid, someday when it's raining and the kid is tired of playing PlayStation, it'll pick up this book. And this is a perfect introduction if you're trying to get your kids to read, and a lovely thing to give them for Christmas.
Speaking of kids, I've talked to you about this before. You've resolutely refused to allow Charlie Parker to go on the big screen, and I get that. But you have agreed, or you certainly optioned your children's books to DreamWorks.
DreamWorks seemed very keen on The Gates. There was a little series of books I wrote about a boy trying to stop the gates of hell from being opened. I'm not buying a yacht yet. And if I do, you can come and play with the remote control.
Thank you very much. Well, those books you can see where they could go with those with CGI.
Yeah, well, I think so. But also, I think in terms of the Parker novels, my resistance was always to film, because I think it's very hard to compress novels into film. They're quite unsatisfactory. They're moving towards that, and I think TV is increasingly looking at series. True Detective.
So in other words, you wouldn't mind now if HBO came knocking. That'd be a different kettle of fish.
I think my kids would appreciate now you never having to work again. That would be quite lovely.
Well, it's amazing when you look at Lee Child and Jack Reacher, probably the most successful detective.
And they're
writer.
making a second of those movies.
Exactly, but his 6'5", 6'6" hero is 5'5" Tom Cruise. Those are the compromises you have to make. Speaking of Mr. Parker or Charlie Parker, I noticed on the press release A Time of Torment 2016. So
April, the first week of April. Once I finish with him, I'm going home to print it off. It's done and dusted.
It's done.
Thank God.
Okay, and we can't wait. And you have an open invitation to come back.
Oh,
but in the
kind.
meantime, Night Music Nocturnes Volume 2 available, and it is perfect. If you want to give somebody in your house a book for Halloween, or you want to start somebody off, then that's a very good one. And while you're at it, you might get a twofer and get the own Colfer as well.
Yeah, lovely thing to do.
John, pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Thank
you
now,
very much.
by the way, you mightn't even have to spend your hard-earned cash, because you can get your hands on a signed copy of John's Night Music. You can do that by heading over to our Facebook page for details on how to enter. Right, don't forget, keep sending us in your 50-word reviews of any of our book club picks this month for your chance to win a book club goodie bag and a Versus tablet. You get your reviews into us by Friday, 30th of October. That's what you do. That's the deadline. And you can email them to irelandm@tv3.ie or post them, Board Gosh Energy Book Club, TV3, Westgate Business Park, Ballymount, Dublin 24. Now, still to come this morning, Secrets of the Baby Whisperer, Tizzy Hall, and Are We a Nation of Complainers? Author Tara Flynn will also be here, and she'll be explaining us why she possibly thinks we are. Stay with us.